Hey, what's up, NFL nerds? We're back with another prediction video for the 2019 NFL season. Now, today we're going to be predicting the New York Jets. Before I jump into it, I'm going to name some of the big additions that they got this offseason. They got Leveon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's really good over there, one of the best backs in the league. They got C.J. Mosley from the Ravens, definitely one of the better linebackers in the league. They got Jamison Crowder, who should, definitely add some depth and probably be that number 2 receiver, I would think. Um, in the draft, they drafted Quinnen Williams, who I think is probably the best interior D lineman in the draft. I think that's going to be pretty big for them. So I think they made a lot of additions on their defense. They made some pretty big additions on their offense as well. So yeah, let's jump into it. They'll be kicking off the season playing in Buffalo against the Bills. Personally, I see the Bills winning this one because the Bills also made a lot of offensive additions. Their defense is extremely underrated, and they're just a really good defense. I don't see the Jets being able to do a whole lot to them, at least in Buffalo. So I'm giving that one to the Bills. Then they'll be traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Now, the Browns made some huge additions as well. They added some depth with Kareem Hunt. Now, I think Nick Chubb is still going to be the starter there, but adding Kareem Hunt was definitely a big addition. They obviously got Odell Beckham Jr., which between him and Jarvis Landry, I think that's going to be the best duo in the league. Baker Mayfield is just continuing to get better and better. They have a very solid defense. I see the Browns winning that one as well. Then they will be traveling to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. I'm sorry, when it comes to divisional games and playing in Foxborough, it doesn't happen that often. The Patriots are winning that one. And for the first time in a while, I think they actually had a really good draft. Getting N'Keal Harry, I think that's gonna be big for them. Stephon Gilmore, I'd still say is probably the second best corner in the league behind Kyle Fuller, and I think I think that Patriots defense is very, very underrated. They're a very solid defense, and I think they'll do a good job at stopping the Jets. Now, I feel bad starting off the Jets this bad because they made a lot of good additions, but playing a defense like the Eagles, I don't think they'll be able to do a whole lot. I see this being a very defensive game, to be honest. I think the Eagles overall are pretty overrated, to be honest, but they have a very solid defense, and I think the offense is the more overrated part of them. I don't see Carson Wentz being as good as everybody else might think. And I see this being a very defensive game, but overall I see the Eagles taking this one. Then they'll be traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The Cowboys, I also think, have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're taking on a lot of tough teams right off the bat. So I feel bad, ranking them this bad, but I don't see them beating the Cowboys. Divisional games, I think the Jets have the potential to beat the Patriots at home. So I'm gonna give this one to the Jets. Jags, I think they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I I'm sorry, Le'Veon Bell's not going to be able to do a whole lot against him behind that Jets O line. I also see this being a very defensive game, but overall, I think the Jets are taking it. This one I covered in the Dolphins prediction video, which make sure you go check that out, by the way. Um, and I see the Dolphins taking it. They're playing in Florida, which when it comes to at least divisional games, when they're playing at home, they're pretty damn good. So I think Dolphins are taking that one. Then they'll be traveling to take on the Giants. The Giants are frustrating for me. I'm not a huge fan of them. I love watching Saquon Barkley. I still think he's the best back in the league. Better than Ezekiel Elliott. Even better than Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion. So, but other than that, the Giants made a lot of stupid moves. I feel like they would have been better drafting Dwayne Haskins. I just don't see them being all that great. I feel like the Jets made better offseason moves. I think the Jets are taking that one. Click on it. There we go. It wasn't going. Then they will be traveling to Washington to take on the Redskins. The Redskins, I think, are a pretty slept-on team as well. They've got a very solid defense. Dwayne Haskins could even potentially lead them to something good, but I just don't know yet. And offensively, I think they're a pretty unpredictable team. Now, I also see this being a defensive game, and I'm not really sure what to predict for this one, I know they have Adrian Peterson, who is still performing at a pretty good level, and who knows, he could have another good year, but he could also be more washed up and just not have that great of a year. So this one's kind of hard for me to predict, but I think the Redskins are actually going to take it. I think the Redskins have a better offensive line than the Jets anyways. An offensive line is honestly one of, if not the most important, overall positions in football. If you cannot protect your quarterback, your team's not going to do good. You saw that with the Panthers last year. Cam Newton got injured because our offensive line wasn't performing well. And that took us from 6-2 to 7-9. And it just wasn't, I don't know, people kind of overlook offensive lines, but if you have a good offensive line, you have a much better chance at being good. Now here, I see the Raiders made a lot of good additions. Obviously, Antonio Brown is the biggest one. He's one of the best receivers in the league. Even though he is kind of a baby right now, which pisses me off. But I think they have something at least solid in Josh Jacobs. They got Cleveland Farrell, which I think he's going to be very solid for them. I think he was definitely one of the better edge rushers in the draft. I see the Raiders taking this one. Then they'll be traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. And while I think people slightly underrate the Bengals, I don't think they're going to be able to beat that Jets defense and hold back their offense that much. I think the Jets are taking it. This other one I already discussed in the Dolphins prediction video. Again, go and watch that. Let me know what you thought of it. And Yeah, I don't know. As when they play at home, I don't think the Dolphins are beating them for that. Um, Week 15, they'll be traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens, I think, are another pretty overrated team this offseason. Um, there's a lot that I'm unsure of with Lamar Jackson. I don't see him being a very good uh, pa- a very good passing type of quarterback. And I'm sorry, but when you have basically a running back for your quarterback, you know, they might be good at, bringing back like a rush heavy team, but overall I just don't think they'll be all that great. And for that reason, I think the Jets are taking that game. Um, Next week, I think the Steelers are also pretty big slept on team. People think that just because they lost Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and everything that they're not going to be that great, but Juju Smith-Schuster is turning into one of the better, maybe even one of the best receivers in the league. Um, they added Benny Snell, who should be very solid behind James Conner. Um, they added Devin Bush, who should be really good for them. Adding extra speed to that linebacking core, that could be huge for them. And I see this one being a pretty big blowout for the Steelers. So I think the Steelers are taking that game. Then they will be they'll be in Buffalo again. And or wait, I predicted this first one different. I mean, I think the Bills will actually sweep the Jets, but I worded it wrong in this first one. I was trying to say that they'll be playing in Buffalo, but I completely worded that wrong. But I do think the Bills are actually going to sweep them. And so overall, I predict them going 5-11. I'm not buying into all the hype that people are saying. Saying that they could, make the playoffs again, or you know, have a winning record or something. Um, I do want to do kind of a, um, like, I guess, worst possible outcome and best possible outcome along with this prediction. Now, I'm predicting them to go 5-11, but at best, I could see them winning one extra to the Bills. I could see them beating the Bengals, the Redskins, the Raiders, and Eagles. So at best, absolute best, I could see 10-6. Absolute worst, um, I could see him losing to Dolphins both times. I could see them um, losing to the Patriots both times. I could see him going clear down to 3-13. But I'm predicting them to be 5-11. But anyways, guys, let me know